Giants, let's go defense. Ballin'. New York Giants, fly high, you know this.
Hi, and welcome back to the Colorado Giants video log. In Denver, find us upstairs at the Tavern in Platt Park. In Boulder, our new home is downstairs at the Lazy Dog, the G-Men Den. We'll be watching every games at those locations. Today, we're joined by Charles. He's an organizer for the Big Blue Denver crew who watch the games at the Tavern in Platt Park. Charles here to talk about what we can expect from rookie running back Saquon Barkley. Will he be able to reach 1,600 yards? Saquon Barkley was the highest anticipated rookie in the NFL draft, and the Giants picked him up with the second overall pick. The Giants have just signed his rookie contract worth $31.2 million. Now, to preface this, no New York Giant running back has ever rushed for over 1,000 yards. The New York Giants in the last two seasons have only rushed for 12 touchdowns. Charles, you want to take it away?
He was the highest anticipated pick of the 2018 draft. Needless to say, every single Giants fan was rooting to get Saquon Barkley, not because he is an amazing rusher, but he also does so many things such as receiving the ball. He can also block and help give Eli another 1.5 seconds or so to throw the ball. Will he have a 1,600-yard season? Well, obviously, that's about a 100-yard game for 16 games in a row. I'm going to talk about some previous star running backs. I want to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. His rookie year, he got 1,631 yards, and he didn't even have half the talent that Barkley had. He didn't have half the anticipation that Barkley gave the New York Giants fans. So he ran for 1,631 and also received for an additional 363. Now let's talk about Todd Gurley from the Rams. He rushed for his rookie year 1,106 yards. So he was the one that we actually picked Eric Flowers over in that year's draft. A lot of people regret that decision made by the Giants at that time. But 1,100 yards is still an outstanding number for a rookie year. He also received for an additional 188 yards. So we have two outstanding running backs that, I'm not trying to be a homer, but in my opinion, don't hold a candle to what Saquon Barkley brings to the field. They don't match up to about 50% of what Saquon Barkley can do. So got some numbers for Saquon Barkley's last 3 years in Penn State. In his 15-year season, he ran for 1076. In 16, he ran for 1496. That was a huge year for him. And in 17, he ran for 1271. In that 1496 season, he also received for 402 yards. So this is an individual who was 50% athlete, 50% student. Imagine what's going to happen when now he's 100% athlete playing for the New York Giants.
To follow up those stats, for his 3-year collegiate career, he had 55, 57 all-purpose yards at Penn State, and he set records for the most career rushing touchdowns at 43, most total yards in a single game at 358. I'm going to repeat that: 358 yards in a single game. And the 2015 and 16 stats that you were talking about were the most for a freshman and a sophomore in Penn State history.
Absolutely. And in Penn State, who are you surrounded by, Adam? You're surrounded by 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. This is a kid who ran for 1,496 yards in 2016. Imagine how he's going to do when you surround him with Eli Manning. When you surround him with Olivier Vernon, Snacks Harrison, when you surround him with Evan Ingram and Odell Beckham Jr., to be the best receiver in the NFL, definitely the top 3. He's going to be 100% athlete, and he's going to be able to increase those numbers. Basically, let's just break it down. We're asking for a 100-yard game every single game. Is that impossible? I don't think so.
So I think if you look at the offensive line, that's where Saquon's success will be completely dependent upon. If they can create space for him and also give lanes for the passing for Eli Manning to loosen up the defense, that's going to be a huge factor as to whether Saquon can have a successful rookie campaign. We're also going to have, I think we need to have a segment on the offensive line after this, because we keep going back to that. It was the worst unit on the team in 2016 and 17, and probably the biggest reason why the Giants were so dreadful last year.
Everybody knows as soon as Gettleman came in, that was his main priority, was fixing that O-line, and he did it. He did it in two ways. Number one, he brought in seasoned lineman Nate Solder from the New England Patriots. Solder, in itself alone, is going to bring experience and leadership. Leadership that line really hasn't had. He's going to bring experience and leadership. And then he also did probably, again, not trying to be a homer, Adam, but probably the second best move of the 2018 draft was drafting Will Hernandez. Will Hernandez was a beast. And as soon as we drafted Barkley, that's what everybody said, oh, I hope we get Hernandez tomorrow. I hope we get Hernandez tomorrow. And that's exactly what he did. He's put in talent in the right areas. You give Eli Manning the requisite weapons to include Saquon Barkley, who can run, catch, and block. And that offensive line will improve 100% this season.
So to add to his accolades in college, he was also awarded the first team All-American by AP, FWAA, ESPN, Sporting News, and he was a consensus All-American. Now looking at his combine, he had a 4.440, and he pressed 29 reps at 225. So just from my perspective, I like the guy. He's just classy. You know, he embodies the Giants' pride that that Gettleman, general manager for the Giants, was hoping to revive. When he drafted, he was so concerned about giving love to his family, not just this precious moment of his that he can be selfish with. And the first thing he did was he bought a home for his mother as soon as he got the paycheck. So kudos to him. I think he's a class act all the way.
Yeah, he displays nothing but class. He displays professionalism, and that's exactly what the Giants need. They need that type of image at the moment. They don't need to be like the Dallas Cowboys. They need to be an image of professionalism. And let's not forget, Adam, the New York Giants are a dynasty. We've got 4 Lombardi trophies. Just want to wrap up real quick. Last year, Pat Shurmur, who was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, he ran exactly 47% of the time. And those were with par running backs. And out of those 47% of the time, 61% of those were 1st and 10. So if you put the OC from the Vikings is now our new head coach and the most talented player of the NFL draft as our running back who can run, block, and catch and receive, there's no reason that Saquon Barkley cannot get 100 yards a game.
And David Gettleman said that he creates time for Eli, which is extremely, that's exciting. And we'll get into a segment later about Eli Manning, but that is going to be critical to Saquon's success, being able to get that passing going.
I just think he's the future of this organization, and as Gettleman said before the draft, a future Hall of Famer.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today, Charles, and thank you everyone for watching the Colorado Giants video log. We look forward to seeing you guys at the Tavern at Platt Park. It's coming up soon. Also at the Lazy Dog in Boulder.